Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, welcome back to Building Great Sales Teams. I've got a special one for you guys today. I've got Jason Bourne. No, I'm just kidding. I do not have the fictional character Jason Bourne. I've got something better. I've got Nathan Bourne, the founder and CEO of MyCORE, the all-in-one business solution. He's an expert in the art of science and leadership. His company is 5 years old and 30 people strong. Nathan is a husband, a father of 5. He was also a Division I wrestler and an Ivy League student. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Doug. I appreciate being on.
Awesome, brother. Well, I've been checking out your site, and we'll get right into it. Yeah. And your mission is the world's most people-centric company. Now, that's pretty counterintuitive to the culture we have right now, which is full of AI, automation, you know, and I'm taking advantage of all those things. So why the focus? Why is that the focus of MyCORE right now? Or was that the
great question? Yeah, you know, I am of the belief that people are still the central focus of a business. I love technology. We're completely tech-based. We're fully remote. We're a paperless company. We just launched a cool product that even since you and I engaged has come to life that is AI focused and driven. And I'll tell you a little bit about that and give you context. But I've just learned in my life and in leadership roles that it's always a who factor. You know, it's like, man, this would be great to do. And you might say, well, what is it? Oh, that makes complete sense. And you might be able to find the why in it. But if you don't have the right who or the right who's that are rallying around it, it tends to be lifeless. So I think that there's a duty to be people-centric, to consider the heart of the matter. And I think companies that position themselves as such, whether they proclaim it as their North Star and mission as we have, or they just sort of have an appetite for it, are going to be the winners. And they got to converge it with technology, right? They've got to get with the times, but I still think people are the main thing, and you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, my job is to ask the questions, though. I obviously agree with you there 100%, though. You know, when it comes to, you know, a lot of the debates that happen between this type of stuff are due to terminology or verbatim, or I'm sorry, terminology, verbiage, right? Yeah, verbiage, right? And when you say people-centric, I'm assuming that it's like you're putting your people first. You're creating a great work environment for your people, as well as you're driving their motivations, right? Yeah. Aligned with the overall company mission and values, right? It's not necessarily that, hey, people can do things that AI can do better. You know what I mean? It's not really that conversation. It's recognizing, hey, AI is doing this, automation's doing that, and our people are overseeing it or managing those campaigns or whatever it's doing within that, you know? And I think that's where people kind of need to separate the two, you know? And we're not saying that AI can't do what people used to do. Obviously, that's happening across the board. But one of the things I've noticed, you know, because I use AI on a daily basis, right? And mainly for grammar and spell check. Right. I don't have it do any copywriting for me unless it's with marketing. But in terms of my own social media post or writing that I do myself, it tends to lose my character, my motivations, no matter how well I prompt it. You know, at the end of the day, you almost spend your day rewriting a post completely when you could have just wrote it from scratch and then put it through the ChatGPT so it makes more sense or it's more palatable for the reader, right? And so I think that combination works well, but this idea that it's just going to replace that human element completely, I don't know. I'm of the mindset it's impossible, but maybe other people have the mindset it's going to evolve to that point.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think I mean, again, we don't know, right? But
Yeah.
based on what we do know, and just I turned 35 last month, so I'm wise and old now. But I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17. I started my first business going into my freshman year of college. In fact, I was 17 and I couldn't form the entity until I turned 18 that fall. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur other than being a student half my life nearly. And what has yet to fail me is, as you were reading off in the intro, the obsession with the art and science of people. And I think it's important to distinguish those things, because there is an art form to people, but there's also a scientific process. There's a scientific method to people. And I think sometimes it just gets chalked up to altruism, like, oh, people are great. Well, people aren't that great. People are pretty shitty, actually, in general, right? And I'm a Christian, so I'm of the belief that we're born shitty, and then we need a savior. We need, I know I'm shitty if I'm not like in the zone, if I'm not living my best life. So I default to pretty awful. And being people centric or having a lens and a heart for people isn't just that, oh, people matter and we have the best customer service. It's really like, are you willing to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of the human condition, of the human experience? And I think that there's a timelessness to that. So far, we've been doing all right as the human race. I mean, we've survived some pretty major things. I think the biggest, most recent fear would have been like, oh, COVID, people are just going to be dying on the streets. And now that's like the sniffles or something, not to discount it, but just saying that, like, it takes a lot to like replace people. And sure, like lower level tasks that were never of our making anyway can be replaced by technology. And I think that the key in this next phase and stage of business is recognizing where the emotional intelligence is and cultivating a skill around that, right? Cultivating the EQ and not just the IQ. Because it used to be that education, how many degrees you had, how linear your path was, and how many acronyms you could put on your name, and really bolstering yourself as this high IQ individual. That's what really sort of separated the haves and the have-nots. I think in this next season, this next chapter of life, and particularly in business, it's going to come down to how developed you are in EQ and how you can manage. And I don't say, because I like to say that we manage things and we lead people, but managing the human condition, because people are going to get sick and people are going to have, life events. And as millennials, like, we're coming up on some stuff. Like, I've got friends whose parents are dying, and it's not a freak accident. They're just dying because that's what you do when you're in your late 60s and 70s often, right? So it's like, man, how do we build parameters and guardrails to keep people productive and to still manage like the life events that they have and not be just like inhumane, as in inhuman in the way that we approach it. So I've built a culture around that. And it doesn't mean that we're softies or that we're, like singing Kumbaya, MyCORE or something. It's really quite the opposite. It's actually just having real, raw conversations about the fact that life and business are no longer apart from one another. And think about this. I mean, our parents growing up, they had answering machines, fax machines, cubicles, commutes. I mean, it was like physical space between them and their work. Now everything's in the palm of our hand. It's practically like on our person. So now it's a fully integrated thing. It's not that people are working from home. It's that people are homing from work, right? I mean, it's just a fully integrated life. And we have to, one, create boundaries around that. I have 5 children and I'm awful at this. I'm constantly on the phone. I'm constantly squeezing in another email. I mean, dude, I filled out the like questionnaire in bed at like 10 o'clock at night, you know, laying next to my wife. I'm thinking I shouldn't be on my phone in bed, but like, this is the moment I have to fill out the damn thing, you know, for the podcast. So it's like you're squeezing every little minute. And I think that we don't even know yet the ramifications of that. So really being people-centric is about just assessing all of it, you know, assessing every aspect of the human experience, and then finding how to be as productive as possible in the time that we do have, create compartmentalization, and then really build a culture where people want to live, not just work. Does that make sense? I know I said a lot.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to unpack as much of this as possible. And so, I couldn't agree more. What you said about homing from work is so real, because it really does bring the two together versus saying working from home, you know?
Right.
And you're 100% right. It's so integrated now. I just think it's silly to ask, you know, what's your job? No, it's what do you do?
Right.
That's the question now. And I think entrepreneurship in general, we tend to cross these boundaries first because we have more flexibility to do so. And we're not part of a, you know, Fortune 500 corporate type gig where they have clear boundaries, you know?
Right.
And so I would agree. It's just, what do you do now? You know, it's not like, what do you do for work or where do you go for your job? Like it's becoming a part of who we are, which is exciting because more people are doing what they love versus just getting a paycheck. And that's a result of, like you said, how far we've come as humans. And we have this ability now to wake up and do what we love every day, if we so choose. And I think, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, all that being said, how do you make sure, because when I see a lot of people going, or a lot of companies going people centric, you know, I'll hear things like unlimited vacation.
Yeah,
you know,
like crazy stuff.
But towards the end of my my sales org, I was instituting things like that because we were remote. It didn't really matter. Like, and all I had to do was have a backup for that person when they went on vacation. You know what I'm saying? And that was the whole deal. As long as your job is done and it's to a reasonable degree, you know what I mean? Like, and you're hitting your marks, and they knew we could trust them at that time because everybody that was with us 4 to 6 years. And so we knew if they left, it was because the ship was right and they were going to come back before it went wrong. Right.
Right.
And we would do things like max it out a week at a time, you know, and stuff like that. But trusting your people is one thing. At what point, how do you prevent it from becoming unprofitable? And then now the opportunity is not even there because you overcommitted to the people-centric piece.
Yeah,
you talked about it. You said we're not softies. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this isn't Google. We don't have billions of dollars, you know. So
we've had to stay scrappy. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you kind of plucked that out because there's some nuance to it, and it comes with a real focus on the sweet spot. Because if you do it like blanketed, you will go out of business. Like you will be the nicest person for 12 to 24 months if you have that much runway, but it would probably take that long to unravel. So I'd have to answer that question by going to our core values, because you mentioned our mission and we spent some time on that, but what really underpins that, what's the foundation to that North Star, is our 3 core values. And they're really guardrails. They're number 1, walk by faith. Number 2, lead with who. And then number 3, the most sobering of the 3, is measure what matters. And we've sort of created a trifecta or a trinity between these values to keep us on point. So one is an element of like, you don't have control. So you better have some capacity for faith. You know, I mentioned earlier, I'm a Christian, so I know it's like illegal to say that now in this country, but I'm a Christian, so F off, you know, and I joke, I say I'm a cursing Christian, so I'll offend you either way. But
Yeah.
if you're an uptight Christian, I'll offend you. If you're offended by my faith, I'll offend you. But really what that I think that speaks to, and particularly entrepreneurs is, and salespeople for sure, is the fact that like everything's unknown, everything's uncertain, and that could be uncertain in the fact that you have 100% commission, and you know you're kind of swinging for the fences all the time, but often striking out or hitting singles. Or as a founder, you're definitely going into every day not knowing if the company's going to work. It's something like MyCORE is kind of unfailable at this point, but it took 5 years to get to that peace of mind. And the only reason I have that peace of mind is because of my people. Like I and imposter syndrome combined with like abandonment issues are like a constant like reality for an entrepreneur. I mean, you're just like, is everyone going to leave me? Or all my clients going to leave me? Is like, yeah, like you need a little of that, right? You need a little of that.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. It's a healthy dosage, because what it will do is keep you on your game, right? I mean, you'll show up and you'll earn your right. And then what happens with imposter syndrome, not to go down that rabbit hole, but like you create new norms. So things that I used to think that I wasn't qualified for, I have time and grade for now. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm that, because I've been doing it so damn long, and then there's other levels and layers to that that I may feel insecure around, but every level has its devil. So you've got to slay the dragon, slay the devil of the level that you're on. So walking by faith is a must. And then the leading with who value and philosophy is really, really important. And there's a lot to it. I actually do like a kind of like a little TED talk that I unpack, and I've got an illustration, and it's a whole thing. But I'm going to push myself at some point to write the book and to really like unpack it in a couple hundred pages. But I was inspired 5-6 years ago when I read Start With Why, right? And I'm sure you're familiar with Start With Why, and I know a lot of your listeners are. And as I read that, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. I was like, I don't know that it's the why, man. Like a mission matters, of course. Like you have to have something to rally around. You have to have a North Star to kind of align the organization. But what I've found to be true is that it's always a who issue. And being really selective about who you allow into your organization. And it's the difference of like let and get, right? Like we're not getting clients. We're letting these people be clients. Like they're qualifying to be our customers. They like, damn, you did your work. Like you now qualify to be a MyCORE client. Congratulations. And that's not just puffery or like, oh, we pump each other up. No, like for real, because we built it in a way that it's interdependent. And if you're not coming to the table prepared to be advised and to bring modernization and to like advance and enhance these aspects of your business, well, then like you really aren't a good fit. And we have to qualify you beforehand. So it's not just a, play hard to get or a flip the script tactic. It's like a real philosophy. So in leading with who, the lens you're now looking at is different, because you're thinking, okay, I'm building people. And then those people are building the brand, they're building the product, they're building the systems, they're building the what's and the hows. And the whole goal of entrepreneurship is to get out of the what's and hows, right? If you're living in what's, like just take inventory right now. How many what's do you do? Well, like stop doing them, or make sure when you do them, you're using the lowest form of energy so that you can reserve your best energy, your highest self, if you will, for moments like this, masterminding with movers and shakers like you. That's why I timed it to get my drink. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I want this nootropic to hit like right about minute 20, right? So that I'm just like locked in, right? So you're a high performing person. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, whether it's athletics, business, relationships, the gym, it's all the same stuff. But ultimately, you are who you hang out with. You know, you're not like who you're hanging out with. You're morphing into a mastermind, into a mega mind. So I think what happens is people think of the law of attraction as this mechanism to attract. I look at the law of attraction as a big game of repelling. Like I'm wanting to put such a clear message out that is so bold and so polarizing, even, that the wrong people avoid me like the plague. Like, they're like, I don't even want anything to do with that dude. And then the right people are like, yo, I want to lean in and learn more and get more of where that's coming from. And that's how you protect the house, because now it's really about who is qualifying these people. So we hire salespeople as what we call business advisors. Let me give you like a tangible example of this, so it's not all philosophy. And I have a chief relationship officer. He is 77 years old. The guy's a total boss, okay? His number one job is to keep people out of MyCORE. That's what he does. We call him Lord Commander. He just, like Game of Thrones, he protects the wall, right? He stays on the wall. He's like, nah, you're not allowed it. And we don't do it like in an arrogant way, but like, he's constantly showing me just like stacks of resumes that he throws away. And he prints them off. Like, he's old school. He's 77. So he prints them off. He's got stacks of them. And then the entire interview process, we have a website for this called Conversation with Ken. And they book on his Calendly, and you're going to meet and you're going to talk to Ken. And he's going to decide if he vibes with you. It's just a total vibe check, right? It's like, wow. And he looks for things like what's in your background, what you're wearing, not background like your pedigree. I mean, like, literally, what, like, do you have good lighting? You know what I mean? Like, is there a book on your shelf? Like, what books are you reading? You know, who are you? And then after that, his wife meets with, who's our chief sales officer, oversees the whole sales team that really we're recruiting and hiring for. And then I have my chief people officer meet. Baked into all of that is 3 written responses. And then ultimately they meet with me, and I share the vision and the mission of the company. So you would think that they're trying to get into an Ivy League school, and it's a 100% commission sales 1099 role. But I cannot dilute the culture that we've built, because I've got 30 plus diehards, renegades that know that by the time they come through that process, they really are the right fit. There's still the law of averages after that, but it's really about keeping the wrong people out than it is even about letting the right people in. And if you focus more on like creating a force field around your organization, the right people will come through the hurdles and get in, if you will.
I do. I love the concept, and I can see why you're saying it took 5 years to build that, because most companies build based on need and scale. So what you're saying is you're building based on this filter. And if you don't get any people through, then that's going to stop growth. Am I right? I mean, if you need more people to scale or to build or to go from 500,000 to 1 million or 1 million to 5, and you can't locate the right people, then you're willing to stop that growth, at least people wise. Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's important to say that.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, the law of the lid, right? So John C. Maxwell, 21 irrefutable laws. The first law is the law of the lid. And what he speaks to is that you are the lid to your organization, right? That you're the one setting the pace. And this is a law. It's like gravity, right? Or E equals MC squared. You can hide it. You can fake it. You can get all the optics to try to make it seem like you're the real deal, Holyfield, but people will find you out because time promotes or exposes you. So if you're not putting the reps in, right, it's just going to, when it's PR day, it's going to be obvious, right? Then you're shaking, trying to get your rep in. So this happens intellectually. This happens as leaders. This happens as husbands, fathers. Like, it just happens. So to your point, and you're keying in on a really important kind of nug, is that if your organization is not growing, I promise you it's because you are not growing. And they know they can like hear the pages of the books that you read last night in the next all hands meeting. And even if they can't reference it because they haven't read it yet, or they're not on the same page as you, they just know if you're sharp. And if you are constantly growing and stretching and developing, then you're setting a pace that people just want to be around, because they're like, you know what? I don't think I could ever catch up to her. I don't think I could ever catch up to him. And at the same time, you have to be willing to show. Actually, Joe and I were talking about this on his podcast, because he paid me a really nice compliment. And he pretty much said, like, Nathan, if there was one thing that I had to say about you, you just attract the most talented people. And I was like, thanks, man. You know, like that's kind of my jam, you know, like I don't really have any actual skills, Doug. I just squat up. I can't do it. Like, what do I do with my hands? I can't really do anything. But I find, and I don't find them, but I track them and I repel the wrong people. But when I find them, like when they're in my zone, I mean, I'm a dog on a bone, dude. Like, you're going to have to get a restraining order against me because I'm like, let's go. So what you're saying there is really, really crucial. It is just a little slight edge to it. So yeah, you have to really be keen on who you're attracting and be willing to get stuck, because you know what? That's reality. Like, you are at that level. Like, that's your revenue. That's your profit margin. That's your market share. Like, this isn't a mistake. Like, the universe is telling you this is where you belong. And if you're going to expand that, it's only going to come because you're too big for it. Like, you outgrew it. And I had a 7-year career before I started MyCORE. And dude, I just outgrew it. Like, I would go to the events and I was like, and there were people making crazy money. I mean, millions and millions of dollars a year. And I'm even like sensitive to say this because I sound like an arrogant jerk, but there was just like a perspective that I had and a mindset that I had that I was like, I can't live in this anymore. And I think that the best companies in this next chapter are going to be the people that are like, yo, I don't really want to work at MyCORE. I want to like die at MyCORE. You know, I want to live at MyCORE. And it's like, damn, like I've got one of our early stage employees. She's a G. She has our shield tattooed on her arm, dude.
I was just thinking that. Like, when they start saying things like that, that's when you see the tattoos come out. You know, and I see it happen. I'm in a mastermind called Apex. Okay. And it's a very culty mastermind.
Oh yeah. I only join cults, CrossFit, church, MyCORE. If it's not a cult, I'm not interested.
But so many that, Ryan Stewman, he's the leader of the group, and it's his business. And there's several, parallel businesses to it. But one of the things he says is fuck your excuses. FYE. And there's like probably 30 to 40 people that have that tattooed somewhere on them. And obviously the concept is more important than, Apex, the name. I don't think anybody has an Apex tattooed on them except for him, maybe. Rightfully so. No, but kind of everything that you're saying, it kind of takes me through a timeline of my career. So one of the things you said, if you're not growing, your people know it. They can hear the pages of the book you read last night. Literally the best quote I've heard this month. It's fantastic. Right on, like, man. I am using that for sure. They can hear the pages of the book you read last night. So much of my growth early on was very organic. No outside influence to it. No reading, just hustle and figure it out, And I'm very
faculties, I mean, you're a stud, right? You're good looking, you're sharp. I guess you were an athlete. You look like one. Like, I know we're just getting to know each other, but like those natural faculties, they will take you to a certain point.
Yeah.
Right. To a point. But then it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah. And so for me, it took me to 5 million. And then after that, it was like 2.5 to 3 million, not really trying. Right. and that was the sales org side of things. But I had no growth. I was going through a lot of stuff in my personal life, separation, divorce, remarriage, you know,
Wait, I
and
gotta stop you real quick. Did you get remarried to another woman?
no, to the same woman.
Oh, you and I have this
Yeah.
in common.
Really?
So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah, we gotta bro out on this for a second because I got married in 2012. We had
Okay.
our two daughters, Amelia and Rosie. They're now 8 and 10. We
Mm-hmm.
divorced in 2016. We got back together, had our son Judah. So this is like the real baby mama drama. And Judah's now 5. We split again, and then we got back together in 2021, and we had our 5th child, 4 together, and stepson from her first marriage. And we got remarried on the 10-year anniversary to the day. So we got married 8-10-12, and then we got remarried 8-10-22. So I married my ex-wife too, bro.
It's very similar. We're right. You know, I'm 37, you're 35. Okay. So we're right there in that same timeline. We got divorced so we separated in 2016. No. Yeah, 16.
Nope.
Maybe legally got divorced in 17, but remarried in no. I'm messing this up. 18. Divorced in 18.
Divorced again if you don't get it right.
Yeah, exactly right. And then we remarried July of last year on the same day that we got married originally. So I wouldn't have to remember another date because you could see how that could be a problem.
Dude, that's funny, man. That's exactly what we did. Yeah.
But we popped out our kids quick. So we had three kids early in our marriage, year 1, 3, and 4, or year 1, 2, and 4. And so mine are 9, 11, and 13 right now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We've got a similar parallel path there. And I'll tell you, I think you'd probably be able to speak to this and relate to this. There's nothing worse than divorce, man. I mean, that'll kill you. Like, as a man and a father, to get up and keep building my business and my life. I mean, that was just like, you just feel like the ultimate failure. And it's really hard, you know. And I think that, I mean, we know that half of the people are dealing with this. And I think that there's, because it's commonplace, because 57% of people are divorced, it's not like a death, but it's like worse than a death, because if your spouse died, you'd be like, oh my God, like, can I make you some lasagna? You know, like I'm so sorry that happened. But then you're like, hey, what's up, man? How you been? Like, going through a divorce. Like, oh yeah, that's crazy. So what else is new? And you're just like dying inside, but no, you know, what are you going to go to Divorcees Anonymous and stand up and say, hi, I'm Nathan, I'm divorcing, or I'm divorced. So it's like, not for all. I mean, for some people, they're like, oh, you seem like you really need to get out of that. But most people go into their marriage wanting to make it work. So that's interesting. I'm sure you and I could commiserate on that for a while.
That's the first time I heard the use of that word. That was good. Commiserate. No, I agree. Like, it's so commonplace, and you know, there's a whole culture built around it called co-parenting and baby daddy and baby mama and all that stuff. And I just, you know, I made a decision because at that point I had stopped all my growth, you know, and I was growing more in my family and not professionally anymore in my business and everything. And so at that point, I'd in my teams, my leadership, my key players could tell. I mean, I prepared them for it. I was like, hey, I'm about to go through a divorce. I told my VP of sales, I was like, hey, I need you to get my back on this. You know what I'm saying? I figured it'd be a year. No, it was like 3 years of cruise control, maintaining the relationship with my ex-wife, and then newly invested in my kids, because now I was, you know, now I realized, oh, I only have half time with them, you know, I only have them with me half the time, you know. And so, yeah, it was definitely a tough time. And yeah, I didn't really start developing myself till I was like 32, 33. And it was because of the divorce. It was like, hey, something is wrong here. You know, I've screwed all this stuff up. The business side can wait. That part's not necessarily easy, but a lot easier. then my faith, you know what I mean? My values, you know,
Right.
me being a man of integrity, which was real important to me at that time. I need a support system who I surround myself with, the mastermind, like we were talking about. And
Right.
I need to be growing myself every week, whether it's physically, spiritually, education
Isn't
wise.
it interesting how it's like just one how all it's all connected, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you can front for a while, right? Like you can have one part of your life going well and kind of hide the other parts, but it always, the Bible says all things come to light, right? Like it
Mhm.
always exposes itself or rears its head.
So
And
you
I
may as
think there
well
is
live in
this,
the light.
dude, just live, yeah, like get in it, embrace it. And
Yeah.
then also choose your hard, right? Because like divorce is really hard. Well, marriage is really hard, and ultimately, like I made a decision. This is just real talk, dude. Like I dated and we had dated other people, and like
Yeah.
you get to this point where it's like it was the same shit, man. This is the same shit. Like I might as well do
Yeah.
it with the person that I set out in the first place, and that I had
Yeah.
these children with. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to not just go through this. I'm gonna have to grow through this, and it was hard reconciling that, right? I mean, there's days where the selfishness creeps up, and you think, man, wouldn't it be nice to be with a
Yeah.
person that sees this version of me, like the 35-year-old Nathan, killing it, bro. But the 25, like, nah, you don't want to marry the 25-year-old
Nope.
version, right? But the person you're with knows that person, and they've seen the growth, but
Evolution.
they're not impressed by the podcast. They're not like, oh,
Yeah.
did you have an episode? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, like, that familiarity breeding contempt is a real thing, and it goes both ways. We see them. I got some great advice from my father-in-law when we got married. He was so right. He said, you guys will spend the rest of your lives. He said, Nate, you will spend the rest of your life hoping that she won't change, and she will spend the rest of your life hoping that you do. And I was like, dude, that sums it up, man, right? Because
That really does.
right. But that's neat. And so you're saying at 32 is where you really got in touch with personal development, right? And that's when you were like, okay, I've got 6 hours to cut down this tree. I got to spend 4 hours sharpening my axe.
Yeah. 100%. And now I'm 37. I've been a part of, obviously reading was a big thing then, initially, and then I got involved in the groups and everything. What you were talking about, where it's like you try and reconcile that, and it's incredibly difficult. The only reason not the only reason, but the main reason I feel like I was able to, besides my faith, was being surrounded by other men that had successful marriages and still do to this day. It's 5 years later, and these guys that I looked up to, and it's weird because I had all the confidence in the world on the business side, and I didn't necessarily look up to anybody. I always thought everybody had their lane, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But where I did look up to them was their families, their marriages, their them as men and as leaders in their respective communities, and they were going to bed at 9:30, getting up at 4:30, working out, meditation, prayer, whatever the case is, whatever their routine was. And so when we're all sitting there at dinner, the conversation changed from at 8 o'clock at night, like, where are we going after this, to, all right, I'll see you guys in the morning at the hotel gym. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so at first they were kind of my barriers not to go outside of that and go back into that world of, dating and the apps and all that other
Right.
crap that,
Right.
we went through when we were divorced and stuff. So
Right.
going back to that mastermind, I think it's just, it's huge, and it's a big part of my story and my restoration story as well.
Amen, dude. That's cool. Like it's interesting how in the early years of manhood, adulthood, whatever you want to call it, it's all about, at least you think it is, it's about expansion. It's about bigger, faster, stronger. As I age, I guess, you know, if I put it that way, like as I just get older, it's like, how do I simplify the shit out of this? You know, like I want
Yep.
everything to just be so simple, so clear. And of course, it's still nuanced. Of course, it still has a little mystique, but like I see now, you know, like I can remember just getting around boomers and thinking like, damn, y'all are boring, you know, but really they've got it. They've got
Figured
it
out.
dialed in. Yeah, they got it figured out. And it's funny, like I even just recently, like I let last year we went through some big growth. Like we doubled last year. We're gonna double again this year. And it was just like the moment where it's like, all right, this is working. Like this is
Yeah.
coming together. So I was working out in the afternoon, but I live in Jacksonville. My office here is in Jacksonville. I live in St. Augustine. So I've got like a 30-minute commute. And that works for Drive Time University, you know, for audiobooks and podcasts and things that I can consume. But, and it slipped away from me last year. Like I was getting like two to three workouts in a week. And it just got to this point where I was like, dude, I got to do this at 5:30 in the morning. Like if I don't do this at 5:30 in the morning, it's not happening. So it was a brutal Band-Aid to rip off, but probably 2 months ago, I started doing the 6:30. And then I was like, you know what? If I can do 6:30, I can do 5:30. Like it's an hour, you know, what's the difference? And that's my life now, dude. By 10 p.m., I'm like, I'm going to sleep, dude. I'm getting 6 to 7 hours. I'm waking up at 5. I'm getting my workout in, and I'm like going to win the day before anyone else is up. And I love it. Like there's no going back after you're up at that hour.
Yeah. What ruins it for me is when my kids are off for the summer and they want to stay up and hang out to like 10:30 or whatever. So we just started instituting a 9:30 bedtime even during the summer. And I'm like,
Smart.
get up early with, you know, you're going to accommodate me.
Yep.
You go to bed early. Otherwise, I'm going
Right.
to want to stay up with you and play video games or watch TV or do all the things that, let's be honest,
I have my wife to thank for that. I mean, Jen, I think it's maybe part of why she's so beautiful, but she gets her beauty sleep. Like she's out, dude. Like she's like done. Kids go to bed, and you know, I'm naturally a night owl, so I'm like, I don't think I can do this, you know? So those first like several weeks, I wasn't tired enough. I was going to bed at midnight, 1 in the morning, and then still waking up at 5. And I was dragging ass throughout the day. And then, eventually it clicks. And what'd you say?
You know, eventually catches up to you. And then, you know, 8:30 comes around and you're like nodding off a little bit.
Like now my 11-year-old, like, I'm like, yo, I'm going to bed. like if you want to stay up, fine. You know, mom said 9:30, cool. I'm going to sleep. So it's on you if you go to bed or not. So I'm like going to bed before my 10-year-old. But that's really cool, man. I don't hear that too often, especially at our age, because I mean, some of our peers haven't even started having kids yet, or gotten married yet. But to go through that whole cycle, I haven't met. I don't know that I've met anyone that's been divorced and remarried to the same person of our age group. I don't think.
Yeah, I would say maybe you're the second. You know, maybe, and that's because I don't want to forget someone.
Right.
You're probably
you never forget your first.
Exactly. Okay, so
good.
you know, we went sideways a little bit, you know, and I would be upset if we didn't talk about MyCORE. And we talked about the mission, the values, which I respect a ton. I'm a Christian also, and so as soon as I saw the imagery of your logo and your first value, one, I'm impressed in the sense that that's the forefront of your business, you know, which you've got different levels to this, you know, and most Christians are somewhere in the middle. Like if you get deep enough into their business, then you realize, oh, they're a Christian too.
Right.
It's right up front for you. So that's part of that rappel, which I love. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm gonna learn today.
Yeah. So tell me about your business and what you guys do, because I went through the website. I know I understand it because of the, you know, I'm a consultant myself, so I understand the plug and play of it. But can you walk us through it?
I can, man. And yeah, it's not all up here. You know, there's a very tactical thing we do. We just very intentionally put that force field out, right? But the what's in the hows are pretty neat. So the short version, I get asked often, you know, are you a SaaS company? Are you software as a service? And I say, yeah, we're SaaS, but we're not software as a service. We are service as a software. And I think this is the future, man. I look at it, I call it the spectrum of SaaS. So I believe that on one end of the spectrum, you have SaaS, but it's service as a service. And this is your typical local shop. Could be an accounting firm, could be a business consultant, could be Betty the bookkeeper, you know, Polly the payroll specialist, Marty the marketer, whatever it is. It's that more like traditional agency, right? And they still own the great majority of the market because their services are high touch and hyper local, and they have kind of that like local foothold, but they're lacking in tech in many cases. And then on the other end of the spectrum, these companies call themselves software as a service, but I call them software as a software. And it's DIY, right? It's basic support, it's live chat, it's put a ticket in, it's get into a round robin. And the part that is so difficult, and it's just like miserable, is that you're always starting over the reference point, right? There's no orientation. And it's just like, bro, like how many times do I have to try to explain this to you, right? It's like this very interaction, right? So when we first met, however many minutes ago, like we didn't know each other from Adam, right? It's like, and you are, but if we did the same podcast episode, like right after this, it would be a totally different interaction because we've laid down all this common ground. So I recognized this in the market and thought, what if there was something that was a sweet spot right in the middle? What if there was a hybrid? And that's what we call the service as a software. So our clients are assigned a single point of contact. We call it their advisor or MyCORE advisor. And this person, they can call, text, email, send a messenger pigeon, smoke signal, Raven, whatever, right? So they have that person's direct information, and they're texting with them, they're communicating with them, mainly meeting on Zoom. And they're the hub to this hub and spoke model. And we say that we're all in one, but we're not all or nothing. So people tend to find their MyCORE gateway drug, and it might be marketing. They say, hey, I'm really looking to, you know, enhance my marketing. Great. Or it could be accounting, something less sexy, like they haven't filed taxes for, you know, 2 or 3 years, or their books are a mess. And what we find year over year is that people deepen the relationship and they go, oh, well, I trusted you with this. I want it to be connected to that. And these things really belong together. They inform one another, but historically they've been fragmented and siloed from each other. So we're really coming in and we're assessing the tech stack. If something's solid and it's working, in most cases, we work with that, right? And we say, awesome, like we can work with your current provider. We can work within your current technology. Sometimes we show them that, hey, this would be a lot better if it was on this platform. So rather than being like a broker where we're like, here's 17 solutions, we have a main partner or 2, sometimes 3 in each of those areas. And we've already done all the curation. I mean, we know times hundreds of clients what how the shoe fits. So it very tactically, it turns into a great platform, a great service, but where the kind of secret sauce is that we're on the same side of the table as the business. We're not coming on the other side of the table as a vendor and saying, buy our solution, it's the best thing ever. Well, of course you're going to say that, it's plastered on your forehead. We're actually helping them purchase these things, you know, and we actually build it into our pricing. So they're getting, in some cases, many cases, they're getting us and the software for less than what they're paying for just the software.
Man, I love the concept as you unravel it, because I've had to do it in my own business, right? So I come in as the consultant. I'm building out a sales program and I realize they don't have a CRM. And I'm like,
Right.
all right, that's minimum. Okay. I'm going to need a CRM to work from, guys, you know? And so, you know, I'm most experienced now in Go High Level. You know, I work with a lot of small businesses, typically trades, maybe some B2B. And so, I like Go High Level because I'm comfortable in, right? But I can also work in HubSpot or, you know, Salesforce if they want to spend all that money on it, you know what I mean? And these different things that we need to. But the whole point is that customized solution of, hey, we're going to use this piece of technology as part of the sales program, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm finding, and I never really considered until like the last 3 or 4 months, is like, okay, I'm constantly opening up new accounts for my clients and these softwares and everything, and I can get volume discounts, or I can, you know, get affiliate commissions or whatever the case is. And so you guys have effectively, and I guess that's my question too, is like, when you see outside looking in, it looks like, yeah, an advisor, consultant, somebody that's going to say, hey, based on your business, because I've done an audit and I've done a calculation, this software looks the best for you in order to provide the solution. Are you doing anything outside of the software? Is there like a maintenance or a call a quarter or something like that that's going on, and we're assessing the business as a whole?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So if you chase 2 rabbits, you won't catch either, right? So what I think happens is that the software companies, they're recognizing that they can't really render a real service. They can support your troubleshooting. They can try to take your ticket and you know, they want to close it out as soon as possible. They also want to send you a survey before you even like heard back. It's like, yo, chill. Like it's nuts. It's like, can you just get your system to where like, you know, that it's done, and then I can give you a survey or review. So it's just become so robotic and so non-human, inhumane, right? It's a little strong word, but like it's not human. So the appetite, I think, the demand in the market is like, for the love of God, I do not want a 1-800 number. I do not want a live chat. Like, I want a human being. Well, human beings are expensive, right? Especially nowadays. So the question is, how do you scale that? And because our solutions are not standalone technologies, you could go directly to them and probably get it done. But what we've done is we've built a large client base with them, and we have dedicated support. We have entire teams that are dedicated to our people, and not just like by way of us to the client. Like, we actually interface with them, and in most cases can completely knock that problem out and put it back on a silver platter, or just tell you it's done. So for example, Gusto is like our go-to solution
payroll software
for payroll. Yeah. And they have about 10,000 partners. We just cracked into the top 100. So I think we're like 99th or something, but you know, we've done a lot of business with them over the past 5 years, and we continue to. But even more than the amount, because it's not necessarily the quantity, it's the quality of business we do with them, right? They know that we're reaching a client base that aren't DIYers. They're not listening to podcasts. They're not digitally marketable to. They're Main Street businesses. We say MyCORE is made for Main Street. So we're going to these local businesses with boots on the ground, those 30 plus people on the about 25 business advisors, and they're connecting in a high touch way. And we used to be doing this pre-COVID, like in their office, right? Like we were physically opening up the laptop and showing them the platform. Well, then COVID hit, and it's like, oh, wow, like the HVAC company will jump on a Zoom. And that's where we saw our lift and our growth, because now normal everyday businesses, local businesses, were willing to meet virtually. So then what we recognized was a single advisor could manage quite a few accounts and do it with class, and they can have a great work experience. And the client is just like amazed at how available we are. And it's because we're leveraging so much off on the tech and so much off on the partners themselves, because we don't build tech. We're not a payroll company. It's like, wait, you're not, but it says right on your website, payroll. No, Gusto moves the money. You know what I mean? They garnish the child support. They pay the withholds. We are Sherpas. We're guides. And when you're a local business with 27 employees, 77 employees, what's the alternative? We'll go hire somebody to manage all that, pay them 70 grand a year, or hire MyCORE. I mean, we just signed up a client. I brought him on there in C12, which is a really cool organization. You should check it out. It's a peer-to-peer Christian CEO, like mastermind group. It's really neat. And a group in there, which it's not like a networking thing. So we don't really like expect to do business with each other, but it just happened organically. Yeah. And they're a $15 million company. They have 15 employees, and they're now paying $720 a month for payroll, benefits, and HR. So they're getting the full, stack of services and a MyCORE advisor. And they were paying more than that for their crappy payroll system.
Wow. So that's $720 for the advisor and the software?
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's killer. I was sitting here thinking it's like, about 10 grand a quarter or something like that,
No,
for the advisor.
We're at like SaaS pricing, dude, because and we just raised, and this was encouraging. Like, we just raised our prices. They raised December 1st, right? And we got to send emails out to a couple hundred clients. And it's like, I don't know. Look, are people going to be like weird about it? I don't know, and my COO and my chief experience officer, who interfaces with the clients and the team that what we call our experience team, they just went client by client, and they just they were subjective about some, more objective about others. Mm-hmm. And they sent out all the emails, and I'm just kind of waiting. Like, we're going to lose at least a dozen clients. Like, there's got to be at least, and we were prepared for it because we're growing, and we just, you got to shift the trees, man. Yeah. You got to get rid of the clients that are.
Let's be honest. A gallon of milk went up to $6, I've got to raise my prices next year too,
Oh, you just have to. My kids last night, we're going to bed. They're, device time, which I don't love that we do that, but we do. And they're like, Dad, can we have some strawberries? I'm like, no, you can't have strawberries. How expensive those damn strawberries are. I'm not cutting you up strawberries. I might as well cut up dollar bills for you. I gave them a half a strawberry each. But no, it's nuts, right? So, one, because I think people just expect it. And two, the alternative, they would have to uproot all of that.
Yeah.
And then they know that they're getting a great deal. So we could probably keep growing that up, but I built it for scale, and I'm more interested in pushing ourselves for efficiency and then being interdependent with the client. I think that's really important. I think there's this just a flat out mistake that I watch people make that are consultants and advisors. And they think that if they keep their client in the dark and they make them dependent on them, then that will be where their retention lies. And I think you and I have this in common. It's like, no, if you engage them in the process and they co-created it with you, they will stick with you because they know that you were in it together. You climbed the mountain together, and maybe you've climbed that mountain a bunch of times, but the risks were just as tough for you. The elements were just as harsh for you. And there's this bond that gets created, and it's not dopamine driven. It's not endorphin driven. It's not what comes with a sale or 3 free months or drugs, sex, and rock and roll. It's the serotonin and the oxytocin. It's the relationship. It's the slow release. And that fortifies your business because somebody comes along with some Cyber Monday, whatever deal. And they're
Friday.
Black Friday. Yeah. Giving Tuesday, whatever the Black Friday extended, then damn, this is Black Week. What are you talking about? So then and we see that our retention's about 90 92, 93%. And we even count businesses that just like go out, you know, like nobody's like piss off. It's just stuff happens. But yeah, I think that like consultants, advisors, people that are in sales, like you got to step into this advisory position, but make sure you're doing it with best in class tech. Because if you're just like gracing people with all your wisdom, it's not sticky enough. Then you're getting into like, I sure hope they don't figure out that I overcharged them by 10 grand. You know, it's like, keep the sweet spot where it's like, it's a little bit more, of course, you know, it's like buying a Jeep or like a Honda, you know what I mean? It's not a Kia, it's not a Hyundai, but it's not a Mercedes either. Like get it where like it's a classy price. And then also one thing we do is we take all manipulation out. We don't do free months. We don't do $99.99. It is flat fees. Like I said, $720 a month. And I tell them straight up front, because it's part of our like brand, you know, it's part of our like, hey, this is going to be the price and let's talk. And people lean into that. I think people respect it more.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've been on both sides of it where, you know, hey, you know, I'm not working with someone for less than this amount or whatever the case is, instead of building up to it and all that type of stuff. And then the other side of it where it's like, okay, how do I over deliver still, but price it fairly, you know? And I think that's especially in service-based businesses like mine, you know, or people that curate softwares or develop them for a client. I mean, some of those fees are just getting ridiculous, like 15, 20 grand for a CRM build out, you know, which, okay, if I am, you know, a $20 million business and I need all these complicated things, sure. But, you know, individual solopreneur or maybe $1 million trades business, you don't need a 15, 20 grand CRM build out. You just need CRM.
Like if you're going to get obsessed with something around the money, my magnificent obsession, my MO is around the MRR. Like I care most about the monthly recurring revenue. So I'm like, look, and what people don't, we've glorified it. Subscriptions, a subscription is a payment plan. That's all it is, right? I mean, if you're charging $500 a month, well, you're really charging $6,000
a year,
divided by 12. You know what I mean? Yeah, like so, and we've put this beautiful spin on it to call it a subscription and to call it a retainer and to call it a management fee or whatever we want to call it. That's fine. But if you price it right, you will sleep so damn good at night. Like, dude, I snore. My wife's like, you have sleep apnea. Why is that? And I'm like, well, one, I broke my nose 3 times in wrestling. I got that deviated septum. And 2, because I am in integrity, man. Like I know that I treat my people right. I treat my clients right. And when they subscribe to MyCORE, they are getting the better end of the deal. Like we worked our asses off to curate this product that you are so lucky to have. Welcome to MyCORE, you lucky bastard. I cannot believe you found us. Do you listen to Doug's podcast? Man, you are lucky, man. God was preparing you for this damn moment. You know, like as silly as that is, like we instill that into the MyCORE cult. I mean, into the MyCORE company. So it really is like a belief system of that. Like we've prepared this place for you. And you are client 187. Damn, you should get that tattooed on your forehead. You know, so it really is like this belief that you are ushering people in, you're stewarding them, you're thankful for the season they have with you. And if you have these intangibles working with like, get the damn job done, you know, and do it in the time frame that you promised, people will stick and stay. I think that brand loyalty and the like trying it out, I think people are over that. Like there was an initial push in SaaS that like, ooh, like maybe I'll switch this every year. And you just start to realize like, dude, it's all the same tech. It's all the same buttons. I mean, the UX UI is not that different. I'm really looking for somebody that's going to like be there when it goes wrong, and it will go wrong. Something will go wrong, or you'll just be climbing a new learning curve. And it's like, here, come back over here. And that's where I think people feel the value. And then you raise their prices on them. Like it moved our MRR up by like $5-6 grand. And I was like stoked, I was like, right on. But again, I expected to lose a handful of clients, and we haven't lost one.
Beautiful. Okay. So original talking points out the window. But I do have one to finish on, and thank you for staying over time with me. I pushed one of my calls as well because our conversation was going so well. Last question, legacy. What does it mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I love that, man. My name, I know you started our time today calling me Jason Bourne. So I often think about the Bourne legacy. By the way, I just recorded the intro to my podcast, the MyCORE podcast, and I would love to do this again, but we'll flip the script. I'll interview you.
Sounds great.
Get to know you more. Yeah. Maybe even have you come here to Jacksonville, do it in person. But so to answer your question and final thought, I kind of had this realization probably about 5 years ago. And I'm not being contrary, but it just sort of hit me that we're not really leaving legacies. We're living legacies. On our tombstone, we're going to have the day we were born, that dash, and the day of our death. And there's a lot of energy around the dash because that's our life. But I think our legacy begins the moment we were born. And it's a sobering thought because I'm one of 9 children. I'm the fourth, 6 boys, 3 girls. And we grew up in a pretty tough environment. So intensity and maybe more like anger are just kind of hardwired into it. So I'm living a legacy of anger, and I have to manage that. I have to make sure that it's not instilled in my children. And I can already see it with my children. I'm like, damn, you are a Bourne. Like, you just popped off like that. Like, did I teach you that? Is it just in your DNA? So the fruits of the Spirit are our legacy. And I want to live a legacy in a way that people look at my fruit and they connect it to the root, right? And say, okay, the core of that was right. And it wasn't pretty, and it certainly was, a journey, but that's where I want it to be like, what? My father, my founder, my friend, whatever context the relationship is, like, that dude lived it, man. Like, he lived it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he was constantly fighting for the good in it and looking for that good and unearthing that good. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I aim to live a legacy.
No, it does. It absolutely does. And I like what you said about the fruits of the Spirit, because I do think that has a lasting impact, whether it be on your kids and their impact and so on and so forth. I think our names eventually will turn into dust, and, they won't matter a few generations away. But the fruits of the Spirit, or, in current trendy terminology case, our values will impact and last. And hopefully, whether it be changing that characteristic of anger, or in my case, changing that characteristic of it in infidelity, that was in my family before. Hopefully we change it for the better, like you said.
Yeah. And I think it's in forgiveness and in grace that we can, because we just can't do it on our own strength, man. Like, I'm one of the stronger people I've met, like ironclad, and mindset has always been like between cutting weight and the grades and like all of that exhausted. Like, I just hit a wall at 25 and was like, oh shit, like I can't do this on my own strength. And that's when my relationship with God got like real, and it was real, like harsh. You know what I mean? It wasn't, it was like a collision with God. Like, are you for real? Because we're going to need to duke this thing out. And I had a pretty radical experience. I'll tell you about it another time, but yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot to what we're kind of wrapping up on. So maybe we'll pick up in our next session. Just drop that bomb.
Yeah. No, we're going to do a second episode for sure, because I'm enjoying this one way too much. So definitely need to do a second episode. And this is just more evidence that I need to expand into another podcast. We normally did 3 episodes a week. We're down to 2 now. I'm making room for a different podcast, and it's more around mindset, faith, entrepreneurship, that conversation that we basically had anyways.
Right. Just put it on that one. Yeah,
exactly.
That one.
But no, thank you so much, Nathan. It's been an amazing, inquisitive, philosophical, all the things podcast, and it was fantastic, brother. Thank you for bringing so much value to the show.
Thank you, man. Much love.
All right, let's get building.